everyone. I have got a crazy one for you today. But first and foremost, I want to thank Lorian for bringing this one to my attention. I never would have known about it if it wasn't for her. It actually happened back in December in Judge Manning's courtroom. And it took a while for us to find the original, but she did it because she's awesome. She actually heard this hearing live and started doing research on it. And a couple months ago, she pulled me down her rabbit hole. And now we're sharing this disturbing story with you. Why? Because you'll love it. So while you're watching this, I want you to ask yourself, can money buy your freedom? And if so, to what extent? And does it depend on where you're at? Rambo says, hell yes. Kitty bomb.
All right, and we've got David Chase.
David Chase is a Nashville real estate developer who's had quite a few legal run-ins that ended up with political entanglements that left some wondering if he was untouchable, even to domestic violence charges.
Good evening, Your Honor. Marco Berger here.
Ooh, there he is. David Chase, 22 CP 212302. David Chase, 91 days without indictment. Aggravated assault, no bond. It's been 91 days. Wow.
In regards to Mr. Chase, multi-state offender, 5 in Tennessee, 2 in Alabama, 2 in Georgia. Open case 22 SC 182644, felony obstruction, terroristic threats, 2 counts, criminal trespass, assigned to Judge Carnicella. Nothing further.
You see, Mr. Chase has quite a history of arrests, but very few actual charges. The charges that he had were little more than a slap on the wrist. Definitely not what someone in a comparable situation would receive.
All right, go ahead. And is he going to be living in Nashville?
Now, Your Honor, since he's been here for 90 days, he's going to have to move back with his parents in Nashville.
Is that here in Atlanta or?
Nashville.
Okay, all right, go ahead, counsel.
Judge, as the court noted, this is the 91st day. He's entitled to a bond. The matter has not been indicted. He has no convictions, although he has some cycles. He does have the one pending case here in Fulton County, which the district attorney has asked me to plead him to a misdemeanor criminal trespass, and we have not. The case here is an incident that happened in the front door of the St. Regis Hotel. I have the video for the court's review if you want it. The St. Regis was kind enough to make me security.
Mr. Kane, stop. Mr. Kane, are you driving? Mr. Kane, you're going to have to pull over. I will not be responsible for you wrecking. Come back when you've pulled over. I can't do this. Go ahead, Mr. Berger. Sorry. What is
this happened on the front door of the St. Regis Hotel.
Right.
And there's ample video, surveillance video about, as you would imagine. The video is certainly somewhat different than the account given by the complaining witnesses. But nonetheless, be that as it may, he has no record of any convictions. He's entitled to bond. He will be living in Nashville. As the video indicates, and I think as was indicated in the first appearance, Mr. Chase got the worst end of it. The video shows he's the one who got his face smashed in when all was said and done, and there's a big pool of blood here and from the lobby of the St. Regis as a result of it. But we asked for a reasonable bond. Conditions of no contact with the witnesses is certainly acceptable to us. We have no reason for that. There's no reason for him to be here other than to see me. My office is not in Fulton County, so it's he can come across the river and see me whenever he would like. And we just asked for $25,000, and we'll be back to deal with these cases when the time is right.
Ms. Abjadi?
Thank you, Your Honor. On September 14th, the court denied bond on the basis that the defendant posed a danger to the victim and to the community. While it's true,
Barbara is here, so go ahead.
Yes.
If you'd like.
He is here and he would like to address the court, Your Honor. We have explained to him that at this point, the defendant is legally entitled to a bond. I would just like to note for the court that the defendant's criminal history spans 3 different states, Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee. Let's see. Out of Georgia, Your Honor, there was a terroristic threats case and this aggravated assault case. While it may be true that the defendant sustained some injuries as a result of this incident, it's because he threatened somebody who was trained in hand-to-hand combat with a firearm. We would respectfully request that the court grant a bond no lower than $100,000 and house arrest in order to guarantee or provide some protective measures for the victim who is in fear for his safety. With that, Your Honor, may I please inquire?
Sure. It looks like it says here that allegedly, Mr. Berger, that he says, Mr. Chase says, I ain't the one, all it takes is 7 pounds of pressure. It's incorrect. It's 5.3 pounds of pressure on the, it's 6.2. So it's not quite 7 pounds. You want to take yourself off mute and raise your right hand? If you hit that little microphone. There you go. You swear a firm testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you for showing up, Mr. I'd like to say as far as bond, and if you're
Yes,
in fear,
sir.
if you
I
accept.
understand. Your Honor, I'm extremely afraid for my life. And more so, I am terrified for the lives of my children. Mr. Chase has a history of coming after his victims. In Tennessee, the Tennessee law had to change because of David Chase.
The situation that caught everybody's attention was a domestic violence one. It started at 4 a.m. on June 8th of 2014, when a Nashville, Tennessee woman reported that she had been attacked by her boyfriend, David Chase. Metro police arrived at the location, and the woman indicated that she and Chase had recently broken up. When she returned to the residence to get her belongings, Chase pulled her out of the residence by her hair. When officers arrived, Chase refused to open the door and told them to go get a warrant. Less than 2 hours after the original call, officers returned with a warrant and arrested Chase, who remained uncooperative, according to the report. Less than 30 minutes later, he was processed, and a judicial commissioner, which is similar to a magistrate in Tennessee, ordered a 12-hour hold, meaning Chase was to be released right around 6:30 p.m. that evening, which is pretty standard in domestic violence cases across the country. Sort of a cooling off period to keep anything bad from happening. Around 9 a.m., just over 3 hours after his arrest, and 5 hours after the initial call to 911, Chase's attorney contacted a judge and asked for the hold to be lifted. You see, the judge and the attorney were personal friends. Good old boys. So the judge lifted the hold, and by 10:30 a.m., Chase had returned to his residence. The victim, believing she had 12 hours to collect her things, was still present at 10:30 when Chase returned to the residence. According to the police report, Chase choked the woman and told her, "You ruined my life. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to throw you out the balcony." The woman was somehow able to break free and ran to the neighbor's house, where she contacted law enforcement. Chase fled the scene. When police arrived, they found blood on the walls of the residence. Chase was arrested again for a second time within a 12-hour period and charged with aggravated assault by strangulation, interference with a 911 call, and vandalism. The interesting part is, he was released again without a 12-hour hold. When it was found out that Chase was released early, and that was the cause of the second domestic violence event. There was an outcry across the county and further, especially from domestic violence advocates. But even the Metro Police Chief, Steve Anderson, accused the judge of choosing the Good Old Boy Network over victims of domestic violence. He wrote a scathing letter to the presiding judge of the county, and many called for the judge's resignation. The only positive outcome of the ordeal was legislation that was passed, making the 12-hour hold or cooling off period mandatory, meaning a judge could no longer waive that. So all of that history was just to tell you, yeah, that victim's telling the truth. David Chase and his domestic violence history did change the Tennessee law. And now you know.
Because he had a domestic violence charge, which anyone can Google, and was released early and immediately came after that victim. Mr. Chase did everything he could to kill me in front of my wife, 4 other people. And if you look at the videotape, I never hurt this man. He was holding one of my wife's employees against her will in a car. And then when she escaped the car, he came after me and repeatedly tried to instigate me. And I still never went after this man. If anyone else besides me was there, they would have a bullet through their head because of David Chase. And again, Your Honor, I'm afraid for my life. But I know this man has a history of coming after the people that he'd hurt. And I finally bested him and stopped him. I know he's coming after me. I am terrified for my children's lives. And I would plead with the court, he's going to live with this family. His father is the second largest land developer in the state of Tennessee. The $100,000 is nothing to their family. I would like to request that for my children's safety, my family's safety, because now he knows where my wife works. Now he knows my name, that you give him $1 million cash bond because it keep my children alive.
Both David and his father are very well connected in Nashville. Whether that plays a role in his treatment is up for debate. You see, when David was arrested the first and second time on June 8th of 2014 for the domestic violence related events, he was already out on bond, a $3,000 bond to be exact, for a February 2012 DUI charge. Prosecutors tried to revoke his bond several times, unsuccessfully, following that 2012 DUI arrest. The month after the arrest, he actually received a second DUI, but the charges were later dropped. Then in June of 2014 came the domestic violence arrests. Then finally, in early August, he had an alcohol violation that was detected on the ankle monitor that he was wearing. He had a hearing regarding this bond violation in late September. Prosecutors argued for his bond to be revoked. They also argued the same thing following the domestic violence arrests unsuccessfully. In this hearing, instead of revoking his bond, it was increased significantly from $3,000 to a whopping $9,000. He was also placed on house arrest and had to continue wearing the GPS and ankle monitor. So at this point, David Chase had charges of domestic assault, aggravated assault, vandalism over $1,000, interfering with a 911 call, 2 counts of DUI, which included 3 bond violations. At subsequent hearings for all of the cases, as well as the protective orders that were filed by both sides, Chase's ex-girlfriend testified that she thought he was going to kill her. Chase's side countered that she was the one stalking him, and Chase was the victim in this whole matter. And he had added pressure from the media, who was demonizing him. While the cases were pending, Chase stepped aside as the developer for a planned 240-room Virgin Music Hotel on Nashville's Music Row. That's a tongue twister. He also resigned as executive vice president for DF Chase Inc., the general contractor for the hotel project, which is his father's company. He said in a statement he needed to focus on the domestic violence cases. Exactly 1 year to the day following the domestic violence events, Chase filed a federal lawsuit against the Metro government and a dozen officers who were involved in his arrest. The 20-page complaint alleged officers violated his civil rights, failed to follow proper police procedure, used excessive force, committed assault and battery, and subjected him to false arrest and imprisonment. He claimed that his ex-girlfriend, the victim in the event, was friends with at least 2 of the officers involved, and that they may have participated for purposes to further agendas related to her. Chase later added District Attorney Glenn Funk and Assistant District Attorney General Katie Miller to the suit, alleging malicious prosecution. The state hired DA Funk's former law partner to represent him in Chase's case, as well as 2 other pending matters. Within the first 3 months, the legal bill totaled over $20,000. Taxpayers were rightfully outraged again. Once again, the rabbit hole gets deeper. Shortly after Chase filed the 2 suits, he made a deal with Funk to drop the charges against the Metro government, which is all of the police officers he sued. And in return, Funk would drop the 2 domestic violence charges against him. Many thought that this was blackmail on Chase's part, but Funk assured the public it was legal. The DA's office issued a statement saying they were unable to proceed with the domestic violence cases because of prior inconsistent statements made under oath and other evidence that contradicts the victim's allegations.
At 6:30, it's a story News Channel 5 Investigates first brought you last night. Explosive allegations in a high-profile domestic violence case. Now, in an interview you will only see on News Channel 5, the man at the center of it all says he was denied his legal rights. Investigative reporter Ben Hall has details tonight.
Well, Vicki, David Chase is finally speaking out, and he and his family have a lot to say about Nashville's top prosecutor, Glenn Funk.
So help me God.
In these taped depositions last fall, David Chase's mother levels serious allegations against Nashville District Attorney Glenn Funk.
Has David told you just flat out that he believes Glenn Funk did something illegal?
Yes.
She revealed Funk demanded her son drop his federal lawsuit against Metro, in which Funk may have been forced to testify before dismissing criminal charges in Chase's domestic violence case.
No, it wasn't an ask. It was we're not dismissing your criminal case unless you dismiss your federal case.
David Chase sat down for an exclusive interview and described the tense exchange he and his attorneys had with the DA.
If you dismiss your federal case in 15 minutes, we'll dismiss your criminal case in 30. But that's all the time that you have to make up your mind.
That meeting was in June. Investigators had determined months earlier that the woman who accused Chase was not credible. But Chase claims Funk delayed dropping the charges because of what Chase's lawsuit might reveal.
And I think that the term that was used by Attorney General Glenn Funk was, well, if he doesn't do it, then I may go to jail, but David Chase definitely will go to jail. So that was not just blackmail, that was a threat in my eyes.
Glenn Funk told us in a statement there is nothing wrong with conditioning the dismissal of criminal charges on dismissal of a civil lawsuit. He said the lawsuit would have cost taxpayers and potentially prevented future domestic violence victims from coming forward.
Did you believe that the $2 million request was to pay a bribe to someone?
But the taped depositions reveal another issue the family had. A demand for $2 million made to Chase's wealthy father from his PR person, Bill Fletcher, to, quote, make this go away.
Was your perception that Bill Fletcher wanted $2 million to bribe someone?
I think Dean inferred that that was the purpose.
I heard Bill's not cheap.
No, well, I don't think any, good PR crisis coordinator is. I mean, you get what you pay for, but no, there's definitely wasn't $2 million.
Chase's father fired Fletcher after that discussion.
Whatever it was, it pissed off my old man. I know that. Okay. And so all I know is, it was $2 million and make it go away.
But in our interview, Chase had a different spin on the $2 million offer.
I've talked to Bill about it, and it was, no, that wasn't what that was supposed to be. It was make it go away, meaning the negative press.
But Chase did not back down from his belief Glenn Funk refused to dismiss criminal charges he knew were bad until he got what he wanted from Chase.
In my opinion, blackmailed me to, using my criminal case in incarceration as leverage to get me to drop a federal civil case that I had grounds to file.
In the end, the only charges Chase faced was the one DUI charge, which was reduced to reckless driving. He ended up receiving 12 months probation. It also included the one bond violation. All of the other charges were dropped. It should be noted that that DUI was actually Chase's second, as he received his first DUI charge in 2009. The charge that was dropped from a couple months later would have actually been his third. After those suits were dropped, the only thing remaining was the lawsuit against Funk, the DA. During the time it was ongoing, Chase was arrested again. This time, following an altercation at a Nashville strip club. He was ultimately charged with public intoxication and 2 counts of possession of drugs. But these charges were never prosecuted. Then in December of 2016, a judge dismissed Chase's suit against DA Funk, citing absolute immunity. To show what a class act he is, Chase then sued his accuser, the ex-girlfriend from the domestic violence case, for defamation. He then seemed to go off the deep end, suing a group of people, including the developers who took over the hotel project from him, alleging that they conspired with his ex-girlfriend to manufacture the charges against him. His father ultimately took over the project. Did I happen to mention a rabbit hole? Like, that one's deep.
Ms. Johnny.
With precision mark, with precision tracking. I apologize.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Johnny.
Your Honor, I would like to echo Mr. Yarborough's request for precision location monitoring. As for an appropriate amount of bond, I did indicate that the state's request was that the bond be no lower than $100,000. I am not personally acquainted with the defendant's financial means, but if we have 24-hour house arrest, then and precision tracking, location tracking, then I think we can ensure some safety to Mr. Yarborough and his family.
Yes. I did like Mr. Berger. This other case that he has here also happened at another hotel.
In February of 2020, Chase somehow made his way into Fulton County. Stay out of Fulton County, dude. He was at the Lowe's Hotel on Peach Street and was asked to leave by the manager. He refused to do so, of course, and the police were called. He threatened to kill 3 different people during the altercation and resisted the Atlanta Police Department officer. He was charged with 2 counts of making terroristic threats, criminal trespass, and obstruction of a law enforcement officer by use of threats or violence. He received an $8,500 good bond and was released 2 days later. The case was set for trial in January of 2023, but on December 22nd, he again had an incident at a hotel, this time the St. Regis. So now our amazing Judge Manning has to decide Mr. Chase's bond, knowing only the little bit that has been presented in court today. None of the other information that I provided to you, I'm sure she has any clue about. Although I'm fairly certain that none of it would have influenced her decision, as it's all irrelevant to the case at hand. Judge Manning doesn't know who Chase is. What was the term that was used before? She doesn't know him from a bucket of paint. I still don't understand that one. She doesn't know who his family is, and she really doesn't care. She isn't going to slap him on the wrist and remind him to be a good boy because of what his name is. She's going to treat him like every other body that is sat in that booth before him and those that will come after him. And that is why Mr. Chase made a huge mistake coming to Fulton County. Let's hope that he learns from it and stays out of trouble altogether going forward, in addition to staying out of Fulton County and not going to Chick-fil-A. Don't go to Chipotle. Don't stop and get gas. Don't put air in your tires. Get gas before you come to Fulton County. Just get on 285, go right around Fulton County. You don't need to stop. Just keep going around. Don't stop for gas. Don't go to Chick-fil-A. Don't do it. Just keep going. All the Chick-fil-A's are shutting down. There's nobody there. They're gone. Sorry. By the way, do you love this background? Isn't it gorgeous? I made it. Do you want it on a shirt? Go check out my shop. I added a shop. I got merch. I got merch. You can put it on a shirt. If there's merch you want, let me know. We'll hook you up.
He was asked to leave the Lowe's, and the district attorney seeing fit to recommend to the court to plead to misdemeanor. And we've indicated we don't want to do that. We've seen the video in that case, and there's not a case there. And Judge, on this particular case, it's important to note it was me who drove up to the St. Regis in a car and confronted Mr. Chase. Mr. Chase was sitting in a car with a service dog, and he came up, drove up to the St. Regis, jumped out of the car, and confronted Mr. Chase. We have no idea. Mr. Chase has never met him, doesn't know. The only interaction they've had in this case is the fact that Mr. came to the St. Regis to confront Mr. Chase, who was literally in front of the hotel with his service dog. He's on disability. He lives in Nashville. He was there to see me. Okay, his mom brought him down here to see me because he was having court with her the next day where we were asking for trial with Judge Carnesale. Okay, I don't know what's in Mr. Yarborough's heart, and I have no reason to disbelieve him. But at some point, we have to kind of look at the facts of this case. The reason why Mr. Yarborough is involved is because he drove up and came up on him. And I'm happy to show the court the video. I mean, it's the St. Regis. There's 15 different angles of this. You know, whatever, however it escalates, there's no audio. I don't know. That'll get sorted out in the case. But to try to make an example of him and to ask for bonds that, you know, because his family is wealthy while Mr. Chase is on disability is getting a little, I don't know how to describe it. You know, I'm not going to take up the court's time. It's 7:30. These are strangers on strangers. You know, we're happy to go away and not come back to Georgia or whatever the case may be. But he needs to get let out. He's entitled to a bond. It's the 91st day. If this was such a big, easy deal, I would imagine it would have been indicted already. But it's not.
Ms. Amjadi?
Yes, Your Honor.
You wanted 100, what did you want?
That the court grant a bond no lower than $100,000, Your Honor, and house arrest with precision monitoring.
No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons, no further contact Stay away from 88 West Paces Ferry Road. It's the Regis Hotel and any Regis hotels. No further contact with stay out of Fulton County, sir. Only come back to Fulton County for court to see your lawyer. As a matter of fact, stay out of the state of Georgia. Unless you're coming to Fulton County for court or to see your lawyer, you're going to have that ankle monitor and precision tracking. You're paying it. It's on him, Miss Rowe. You're paying it with a 24-hour curfew except for court, lawyer, and medical appointments in Tennessee. In Tennessee. Yes, off bond. Statutorily, I have to give him a bond. Okay. Did you want to say something? You raised your hand.
You're on mute, Mr.
Could you also add my wife list of people to stay away with? She's the manager of the St. Regis. And unlike what his attorney said, I was there to pick her up, my wife up from work. She's afraid of dogs. Mr. Chase let his dog out and I was at the door picking my wife up. You can see in the video. Then you see a woman run out of Mr. Chase's car, run to the building. Then Mr. Chase run at me and I still did not attack him. He ran at me again and said, I only take 7 pounds of pressure. And said, I have 9 rounds in front of 5 witnesses, then walks off, then runs up to me an inch from my face, and then decides to pull up the 9mm Glock from his waist, grab it with both hands and punch out into my face. With every attempt to take my life that he had threatened 3 times till he decided he's going to kill some unarmed black man in Georgia. Unfortunately, I've been trained in martial arts. If not for my martial arts training, my wife would have to watch her husband die.
Okay. So stay out of the state of Georgia, sir. You cannot come back to the state of Georgia unless you're coming to Fulton County. Drive straight through. Don't stay in a hotel. Don't stay overnight.
And Judge.
Yes, ma'am. Let's see, where's that? And stay out of Fulton County, stay out of the state of Georgia. All right.
Can I clarify what the amount is?
One more time.
What was the amount?
Oh, I hadn't said it yet. And Miss Rowe, he's paying for this ankle monitor stuff, okay?
Okay.
All right. That'd be $150,000 good bond. Best of luck to you, sir.
Thank you, Judge. Might be excused.
Yes. All right. So, Mr. Yarba, he'll have that 24-hour precision tracking. Okay. So if he comes in the state of Georgia, he's violated his bond. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. Stay healthy and safe. Have a good holiday.
Thank you, Judge.
If you're interested in knowing more about this case, I have put quite a few links in the description. The newspaper, The Tennessean, covered Mr. Chase and his escapades in depth and has quite a few articles dedicated to all of his different cases. Thank you all for joining me as usual, and I will see you soon.